The future timeline as we know it no longer exists, having been erased in the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super, an unavoidable outcome. Unless someone with a brain and hindsight controls the characters like action figures, so that's what I'm gonna do today, starting with Solution 1. One of the easiest ways to avoid the future timeline being erased is with the help of future Goku, and by extension, avoiding the creation of time travel and a present timeline at all. It isn't as simple as many people make it out to be though. When Goku dies of the heart virus, he's sent straight to heaven, like he was supposed to after dying to Raditz in the Saiyan saga. While King Kai's planet is in the realm of the afterlife, it's not actually in heaven, and Goku wouldn't leave heaven without having a reason to. I do think he'd eventually have a reason to leave though, when 6 months after his death, at least some of the other Z-Fighters would arrive in heaven as well after dying to the recently released androids. At this point, I think Goku could get involved, but I definitely think he gets involved when 13 years later, Gohan dies and inevitably arrives in heaven as well. Since I'm controlling the characters like action figures here, let's just assume he takes the android threat seriously the minute he finds out about it. All Goku has to do is teleport to King Kai's planet, something we know he can do since he does it from Earth in the Cell Saga, and we know he could teleport in the afterlife while dead in the Buu Saga when he teleports to the realm of the Kaioshin to find Gohan. So any doubts of him being stuck in heaven should be alleviated. With Goku on King Kai's planet, he can use King Kai in two ways. One, to contact Gohan, or the better way, contact Baba. It's actually possible fortune teller Baba is already in the afterlife, hiding from the androids the same way she did from Buu. But even if she's not, it's easy enough to get in contact with her so she could grab Goku to spend his one day on Earth. Remember, it's only been 6 months since the androids emerged, so most of the Earth is still alive since they're taking their time and having fun killing everybody. So Goku contacts Gohan and lets him know he's coming back for a day, and has him meet him at Kami's palace. Of course, Kami is dead, but the Room of Spirit and Time is still functional, so they're going to use it to train. Now, this may be contentious, but I think the Room of Spirit and Time would give Goku extra time on Earth. It's still one day outside the chamber, so no rules are broken to me, but I could see a world where it doesn't work that way. Let's assume it works in Goku's favor, due to it even being suggested as a place to train Goten and Trunks in the Buu Saga when Goku also only had 24 hours on Earth. This should be more than enough time since Goku and Gohan ended their training early in canon when using the time chamber, meaning they have over a year of breathing room for extra training. Some important things to remember though, Gohan didn't train with Goku and Piccolo for 3 years like present Gohan did in canon, so he is weaker, but they only need to be stronger than the future androids since they don't even know Cell exists and he won't exist for another 21 years. Remember, Cell is only a threat in the canon present timeline because he time travels back in time. Also, the future androids are considered weaker than their present counterparts by future Trunks. It is possible his perspective on their strength is wrong due to the androids holding back against future Gohan in every fight except his last, but I also think it's more than fair to assume that Toriyama truly intended for the present androids to be stronger, which is why he had Trunks say this. So with around a year of training due to Goku's time constraint and weaker androids, Gohan can turn Super Saiyan at will and is far stronger than both of the androids. Goku would want Gohan to handle the androids because he's no longer alive, a similar mentality we see him have in the Buu Saga in canon. While Gohan takes care of the androids, Goku teleports back to King Kai's planet and uses him to not only find new Namek, but also to communicate with the Namekians, so they gather their Dragon Balls for him before he gets there, which they're more than happy to do for their people's savior. This also buys Goku more time in the living realm since he's waiting on King Kai's planet until they're gathered, and buys time for Gohan to destroy the androids. King Kai keeps an eye on Earth and informs Goku that the androids are destroyed, and then sees the Namekians have gathered their Dragon Balls. So Goku teleports over and has to decide who he should revive due to Porunga's revival limit of 1 person per wish. Luckily for him though, the revival limit was removed after Frieza invaded Namek, so he can revive everyone with just 1 wish, and even has 2 wishes left. After reviving everyone with the first wish, he uses the second to fix the destruction on Earth that the androids caused, and for the third wish, I think he could wish for his own revival, as he didn't have the same intention to stay dead for a reason like after the Cell Saga. But I don't know if Porunga has the same natural death clause that Shenron has. It also depends if a death to a virus is considered a natural death. I would say it is. Otherwise, Toriyama would have specified old age. but I could see both arguments. So now, everyone on Earth is alive, Gohan is really strong, and Goku either returns to life or to heaven depending on Porunga's own limitations. This of course has rippling effects for the Buu Saga and Super, but things can more or less fall into place after this, especially if Porunga can revive Goku, but I'll explain that more later in the video. Speaking of the Namekian Dragon Balls, here's the second solution. Why don't they just use those in the future timeline? Well, it's not as simple as people think. The first issue is there's possibly no more ships that can be used as a basis for a spaceship. Kami's ship is gone and no space pods seemingly remain, both of which were used to get to Namek originally. To be clear, the ship Vegeta used in Dragon Ball Z was filler. In the manga, he trains in the gravity room at Capsule Corp that we're all used to now. This is actually when the gravity room was made. I think Toei just misunderstood what Toriyama meant since the room wasn't clearly shown in the manga at this point. Obviously though, if Bulma could invent time travel in the apocalypse, then she probably could make a spaceship based on her prior knowledge of those ships. The real reason she doesn't do that is because she doesn't know where New Namek is. Before going to Namek, they had to get the planet's location from King Kai, who was, at the time, invested in the Earth, and more specifically, the use of his techniques that he couldn't even master himself, like the Kaioken. But we learn in the Cell Saga that King Kai isn't always watching Earth. He has to be told by Goku what's going on with Cell, despite Cell potentially being a threat to his quadrant of the universe. So without someone who knows telepathy or instant transmission to get in touch with King Kai directly, there's no reason to believe he'd relay the location of New Namek to future Bulma on his own. You may be thinking that just like the spaceship, future Bulma inventing time travel should make her capable of finding New Namek on her own, but I disagree. Shenron can't even search the universe for planet-sized objects, and he's a magical wish-granting dragon. If you think that's different, look at the Frieza Force, who couldn't find New Namek despite having incredibly fast ships and overall superior technology to Earth. There is a solution to finding New Namek though, and it doesn't even involve future Goku. Just still use the time machine. While New Namek isn't an accessible option in the future, it is accessible in the past. Future Trunks could get New Namek's location from King Kai in the past with the help of Goku, and to avoid any issue of space travel, he could do two things. One would be making sure Goku's space pod from the Ginyu Force is kept somewhere and have it turned into a spaceship like Dr. Brief did for Goku, or just bring Goku to the future timeline and have him teleport to New Namek with future Trunks to use their Dragon Balls. Either way, the space travel issue can be resolved the minute they learn where New Namek is. Though I will say, the spaceship option is more preventative, so I would go with that one. In this version of events, there's still a present timeline that plays out the same way, but the future timeline has Trunks use the Namekian Dragon Balls after killing the future androids and future Cell to restore the planet and the fighters who died trying to protect it. Again, except Goku potentially, because I'm not sure the Namekian Dragon Balls can revive him. There is potentially one other issue with this plan, and that's the 1-year revival limit for groups of people revived by the Dragon Balls. But again, we're not sure if Porunga would have this same limitation, especially since he was upgraded to revive large groups of people after Frieza. Even if he is limited in this way, it would just mean that Trunks has to use the Namekian Dragon Balls multiple times to restore all the fighters on Earth one by one, so it isn't really a notable change. With this larger group and future Trunks' knowledge of better training due to his time in the past, the future Buu Saga should go pretty smoothly, specifically with future Gohan, who could be trained by future Goku since he wouldn't want his perceived failures to happen again. He could have even already trained with him for 3 years while dead in heaven. This, alongside the fact there's a warning about Buu well in advance in the future timeline, should allow for Buu's revival to be more avoided, and more importantly, for Beerus to still be alive since there would be no reason for Supreme Kai to die, and even if he does, he'll be revived immediately. This would also lead to Goku Black no longer seeing the future timeline as a target, and potentially him having no target for the Zero Mortals plan at all. Maybe he'll go to Cell's timeline, you know, the one where Cell killed Trunks and stole his time machine. I guess that'd be the only option he'd have left. Like I said though, there's no guarantee that everyone can be revived by the Namekian Dragon Balls, because they might have Earth's Dragon Balls' same 1-year time limit on group revivals. If that's the case, Trunks can still fix the Earth as much as possible with their Dragon Balls, and if he took a spaceship to the past, this still leads to a Goku Black free outcome, because assuming everything else goes the same, Supreme Kai dying to prevent Buu's resurrection and all, he can use their Dragon Balls to revive Supreme Kai, and by extension, Beerus. For those who forgot, Beerus is connected connected to Supreme Kai. Yes, he likely used to be connected to Elder Kai, but he no longer is. Yes, he likely was connected to the Grand Supreme Kai, but he no longer is. It's explicitly stated in the anime and manga that his life is connected to Shin as of now. This connection is transferred to the current Supreme Kai. Think of it like Elder Guru transferring the Namekian Dragon Balls to Elder Mori. And now, because their lives are connected, it should work the same way as Kami and Piccolo, where reviving one revives both. So once again, Beerus is in the timeline, and even worse for Goku Black, he's likely far more involved in the affairs of Earth due to his death and revival. Speaking of gods, Solution 3 makes use of a god's attendant. Not Whis, not Kibito, I mean Mr. Popo, who, as far as we know, should still be alive in the future timeline and knows about the Room of Spirit and Time, so why didn't he tell future Gohan about it? The androids ravaged the planet for 17 years, and he didn't think once to put their strongest fighters in a room that gives them a free year of training? Now, it's very possible this wouldn't make a difference since future Gohan actually did train for a year before facing the androids again and still got his ass beat, but Mr. Popo, while not as strong as them, could actually help them on their fundamentals like he did for Goku. This is probably my most far-fetched solution, but it is funny there are tools on Earth to do something and they just aren't utilized. Actually, I'll keep these in Solution 3 because they're adjacent. Master Roshi was definitely alive for a lot of the future timelines, so why didn't he teach someone else the Mafuba so they could seal the androids? You could even have him do a training session with Gohan in the Room of Spirit and Time to expedite the process. Actually, I just like the idea of future Gohan having to rely on the masters of his dead father to further grow and ready himself as the new protector of Earth. Master Karin could even get involved and use the Ultra Divine Water to unlock Gohan's hidden potential, just like he did for Goku. This isn't the Sacred Water, by the way. That water was fake. The Ultra Divine Water was real. They're from two different arcs. So in this version, Gohan stays alive, having followed more closely in his father's footsteps while still being his own person. With a combination of his improved fundamentals from Mr. Popo, a power increase from Master Karin, and learning the Mafuba from Master Roshi, he handles the androids on his own. This doesn't bring back the Dragon Balls or anyone else for that matter, but it does likely lead to a future timeline with a far easier Buu saga due to both Gohan and Trunks being around to help Supreme Kai with that threat so he doesn't have to die. Which then leads to Beerus still being alive and avoids Goku Black's involvement entirely. I think all of these solutions could have led to a good outcome for the future timeline and future Trunks, but instead, he's in a timeline with a different version of himself that's already there because I guess that was a more fitting ending for that character. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you so very much for watching.